Okay, in today's video we're going to take a look at yesterday's town hall on CNN about the climate crisis.
Seriously, I actually became a vegetarian when I was still a college football player, going back to the corporate consolidation that we're seeing, where the farming practices are becoming so perverse, causing cancers, destroying our environment as well. And so let me tell you where we've got to go as a country.
The climate crisis. It's reached a level of panic mode, and we're going to hear from the only vegan that made it to this debate, because Tulsi Gabbard, well, she didn't qualify. There's some controversy over that one. It's interesting because she had a whole plan before any of them, which she talked about. I'll get a video on that from about a week back. Let's get a better shot here. That's a little better. And we're going to pick up here just before the topic of veganism comes up, as I predicted last night on Twitter, because Buttigieg, the topic of beef came up. And we're going to see that later. But we're starting with the vegan.
Honest, this problem didn't just happen. A lot of the question we should be doing is, what are folks already doing? When you're running for president, it's easy to tell people what you're going to do. I've already put in legislation to help farmers and ranchers deal with what we're seeing as an increasing crisis, not only on bigger issues of climate, but also other issues that are affecting family farmers right now. The independent family farmers are under crisis because of corporate consolidation and these massive factory farms that are gobbling up a lot of our heritage. And by the way, that is not only an issue of antitrust and the monopolization of our society, which...
I'm not sure what he's talking about here. It's not about the usual thing that us vegans talk about. Maybe his point was to bring up factory farms without getting too personal. You gotta wonder here.
As powerful impacts on our climate, especially as these corporations get bigger and bigger and pump more money, thanks to Citizens United, into the corrupting of Washington. We can't leave sectors of our society out of the solutions to this crisis. This has to be a unifying call. And farming, we have to understand that farmers are a part of the solution. They're a necessary, indispensable part of the solution. And
so this is different from the vegans on YouTube. What do vegan YouTubers talk about? What is their solution? Well, go vegan. All right. Right. YouTube is different from out in the real world. Well, it's true that we shouldn't just leave people behind. Yeah, of course, that's what Republicans do. But what specifically would he do? What should be done? That's the question.
the emergence of windmills and other things on farmland where farmers are getting new sources of revenue. Well, my plan is going to have farmers be incentivized through hundreds of billions of dollars. We're going to be putting into a fund that's going to incentivize practices, whether that's cover crops that are going to pull carbon out of the air, or whether that is just common sense stuff like ranching practices that help to preserve the soil and minimize the carbon footprint. We can do this, and farmers don't get hurt by that. Actually, family farmers will be able to create new sources of revenue, enrich our environment, and help to deal with this larger crisis.
So you're a vegan?
I thought you were a vegan too, man.
No, we don't want to go there. So you're a vegan, and when you've talked about being a vegan in the past,
yeah.
And I want to quote you, let me get it right. You said that you don't want to preach to anybody about their diets. So my question is, your administration wouldn't have any programs to encourage healthy diets that would also combat climate change?
Oh my gosh. So let's go right at this because I hear about it all the time. Booker wants to take away your hamburger. That is the kind of lies and fear-mongering that they spread out there, that somehow the Democrats want to get rid of hamburgers. Look, I am a vegan. I take my diet very seriously. I actually became a vegetarian when I was still a college football player, coming out of playing college football. But this is the point. We live in a society right now, going back to the corporate consolidation that we're seeing, where the farming practices are becoming so perverse, I've been to a place called Duplin, North Carolina. My dad is from the state, and activists asked me to come down there. And you see these massive factory farms where the farmers themselves are living like sharecroppers, deeply in debt. Their lives now are they're not making great money. These large companies like Smithfield now, international companies, I think Chinese owned at this point, are doing practices where they have treatment of farm animals in ways that is contrary to what I see farmers in Iowa. They put them in these massive, they don't want people to see what's going on, so they cover them.
I would say that's a first in presidential races, to bring that up.
All that pig refuse is going into massive lagoons, and then they spray it over fields. And I went there and I stood there in a black community. I watched how the stuff fell on the fields but misted into the black community. I sat in a room packed with activists who said, look, we can't open our windows. We can't put our clothing on the line. We can't run our air conditioning. We have respiratory diseases, asthma. Our creeks, because when storms come through, they pull that stuff out and pollute creeks and rivers.
Well, this reminds me of a conversation I was having last night on Twitter with some denier. Just wants to deny everything, Trump supporter. Here's a look at that I saved for you.
They don't want people to see what's going on, so they cover them. There's not a person in our country seeing that misery that wants to take a part in that. But yet we have, thanks to the corporate lobby of these big companies, we're incentivizing those kind of farm practices and not the kind that represent our heritage and support independent family farmers. And so this is something, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be a president that's giving tax breaks to people who are polluting folks, causing cancers, destroying our environment as well. And so let me tell you where we've got to go as a country.
Yeah. Let me tell you. Let all of us vegans tell you, because we are the future. We are the ones who know how human beings should be living, which will then in turn give us a better life. Human beings are vegans by nature. So if we just live in accordance with nature, things will go a lot better. Things are not going well now. So why wouldn't people want to change? And the change starts with us.
And so let me tell you where we've got to go as a country. Freedom is one of the most sacred values. Whatever you want to eat, go ahead and eat it. Whatever you want to eat, go ahead and eat it. But when I come to you right now from the only person in this entire...
Okay, some vegans are not going to want to hear that. That's not the way vegans talk on YouTube, of course. But then they're not running for office. They're just trying to put out the right information, and it's not going to hurt them. If they're a vegan channel, right, yeah. Of course, non-vegan channels can't say that. But right after he says, you have the freedom to eat what you want. And then he says, but. I just noticed that for the first time. Right. Post your comments below, people. What do you think about this? You know he can't win unless he talks like that. And you have to appeal to a lot of people. And maybe he's onto something anyway. It wouldn't be right just to ban a whole industry and put people out of work. And, it's not going to work anyway. And there is other ways of going about it. So what do you think, people? I want to hear from you. And then let him know on Twitter. There's actually a good chance he will read your posts.
You know what we're furious about in my community? Communities all across this country, is that we don't have access to fresh and healthy foods. We live in food deserts. There's a guy. You would love this guy. And you should interview him. He's one of the best TED Talks I've listened to. Is a guy named...
TED Talk. Oh, he brings up a good point. That we need politics. It's not as simple as go vegan. Just eat all the fruit you want. Well, some people just can't do that. There's people in Flint, Michigan, that don't even have grocery stores. You would never guess that situation exists unless you heard about it. You heard about it on political TV. We need a government to fix these things. And there's one party that likes to fix things by looking at the cause. Okay, here's Beto O'Rourke, who came on before him, and the topic of beef came up. This is where I realized, well, this is going to be exciting.
A question I'm sure you hear in Texas every now and then. To grow 1 pound of beef, it takes 20 times the land and creates 20 times the carbon pollution as 1 pound of plant protein. So as president, how do you think the American diet should change, agriculture should change, and to all those carnivores in your state, can they have their steak and eat it too?
Yeah. I think,
Yeah, I knew that one was going to die.
yeah.